Okay, we are recording, so I'm going to get started. Today we're going to be talking about Zipforms and DTR, which is DocuSign Transaction Room, how they relate to each other, and how you can easily use both and their basic functions to make sure that you're creating an appropriate file for your clients and you're able to get it loaded into DTR and able to submit it to the OAs so that you guys can get your files processed in a timely fashion. So I'm going to start sharing my screen now. And I'm actually going to start out here in Zipforms, if everybody can see this. So you just log in through ACE, usually it's right there. And once you're in, this is the page that you're going to see. And so I'm going to act as if we're starting a transaction from the very beginning. So the first thing you're going to do is log into Zipforms, and then you'll see this menu bar across the top here. And all you guys have to do is click this new button right here, okay? So I'm gonna click new. And now it's asking me with some very simple icons, what type of transaction is this going to be? So it's either gonna be a new listing, it's gonna be a new purchase or offer, which would be a buyer, it's gonna be a new lease, which would be a tenant, or it's going to be a new lease listing, which would be a landlord, okay? They also have a quick sign option, which you can use if you just need to load one document and have it signed by somebody really quickly. But I would advise you guys, you don't really want to use that. Anytime that you want to have a client sign something, you're just going to go back into their original transaction to send the document from there. So for right now, I'm just going to pretend that this is a new listing. Okay, so that's the one I'm going to choose. You just click it. There we go. So the first thing it's going to ask you is to name the transaction. So if it's a listing, obviously you already know the address. That's probably the easiest thing to do. If it's a buyer, you can just put the buyer's names in here. So really this is just for your own knowledge. So put in whatever you need to put in so that you know who you're talking about. So let's just say it's 123 Main Street. All right. And then it's automatically putting in your office, and it's asking you what category is this listing going to be in, right? So if it's a condo, you can choose condo, farm and ranch, manufactured home, industrial, commercial, all those things. But for now, I'm just going to do residential, okay? And then the status, you just want to leave it as active. This really doesn't matter. You don't have to come back in here and change the status as you go. So we're just going to leave it as active. The most important thing I want you guys to see is right here where it says select templates, okay? And it has this little drop-down menu. So as soon as you hover over it, you can click it. And you get this big long list of all the templates. So for those agents who may have created their own template at some point, you'll see those, they'll say personal, right? So we have one that says personal, lots, buyers packet, listing packet, etc. But if you have not done that, which most people haven't, what you actually want to look for are the ones that say global. That means they're the ones that have been created for you. And if you scroll all the way down this list to the very bottom, you will see for South Jersey. These are the templates that you guys are going to be using to make sure you have the appropriate documents, okay? So there's the South Jersey buyer's packet, South Jersey listing packet, South Jersey rental landlord, and South Jersey rental tenant, okay? So since we're doing a listing for this example, I'm going to click on the South Jersey listing packet. So all you have to do is click it, and then you'll see it come up right here. That's the right one. Okay, and then at the very bottom, there's this green save button. We're gonna hit that. And what it's gonna do is actually put you into this transaction. So it's gonna put it together, and now I'm in the transaction that I just created, okay? So where it starts you out is on this sort of details page. They call it, as you can see up here, they call it the summary page. For Zipforms, it is not the most important thing to fill this out, okay? In DTR, as I'll go over, it's very important to fill this out, but for here, you don't have to. You can either fill out the information here, or you can fill it out on the transaction cover sheet, which I'm going to show you in a second. There's no need to do it twice, okay? The one thing that's good to know here is that you can actually pull in information directly from the MLS. So if you do see where it says right here, MLS, if a previous listing exists, or if you've already entered it into the MLS and you're working backwards, now you want to put it in Zipforms, you can use this button to direct fill the actual homes information in here. But again, you don't have to. So I'm going to come back up to this top menu right here. I'm going to skip summary. I'm going to skip parties for now, and I'm going to come straight over to documents. Okay. And now, as you can see, it is showing me all of the documents that have been preloaded into this room for you based on which template you chose, right? So since this is a listing, it's the documents that are appropriate for a listing. If it was for a buyer, you would see the buyer agency agreement in here instead of the listing agreement, right? If everyone follows. So that's how this works. This very first page or very first document that you're going to see in every transaction is called the transaction cover sheet. The beauty of this document is if you fill it out as much as you can, it will autofill the majority of the other documents for you. So not everything, not every little detail, but it will do a lot of the work for you. So I always suggest, first thing you want to do when you come in here is click on this transaction cover sheet, okay? And then put in all of the information you have at the time. So if we're speaking as if this is a new listing, you're not going to know the buyer's info yet, you can skip it, but you're going to know the seller's information, right? So seller one, you put in all their info here. You can click on any of these and, type the info in, just like that. If there's a second seller, husband, wife, what have you, right? That's seller two. They even have a seller three in case there's a third party. Then you have the selling broker, which you're not going to know yet, right? That's the buyer's broker information. And you have the listing broker, which is us, right? So you're going to know this information. So you can put in our name, address, your name, your email address, your phone number, all of that. Next thing you have is the property information, which for a new listing you're going to have. And you don't need to go crazy by putting all of this in. You want to think about it as if you want the information you're going to need on other documents to be in here, right? So when you go do contracts or anything like that, that basic info is what you want to put in here. So you want to put the MLS number, the address, the tax ID number or parcel number. You can skip over all the mortgage info. You don't have to put that in there. But you can put, like the purchase price, what's included, what's excluded. Once you have an offer, you can come back in here and put in, any of the offer or purchase proposal information in here. Again, everything you put in here is just going to help you fill in the other documents much quicker, okay? So whatever changes you make to this, once you've entered any information, I'm going to put something in so that you'll see. So I'll just say, class test, all right? And then street, 1, 2, 3, Main Street. So once you start filling this in, you will see in this menu bar up here, this little floppy disk icon save button will appear once you've made some actual changes. So once you're done filling in the information on this, you want to make sure that you remember to click this save button. Okay, so I'm going to click that. And then it's telling me, yay, it's been saved. Okay. So you can now, and at any time, still come back in and edit this document further. Just every time you do it, you're going to repeat the process. Make sure you click save each time. But you can come back in and out of this document as many times. Just by clicking, you can start writing again. Okay. So something important also to note that kind of messes with a lot of people. I'm on this document. Now I want to get back to where I was before to see all the documents. A lot of people will hit the back button on their browser up here. And what that will do is boot you all the way out of Zipforms. So you don't want to do that. So Zipforms has this green right here, green back button built into Zipforms itself. So that's the button you want to use if you need to go backwards at any point. So I'm going to hit the green back button, and it's going to put me back in the transaction and show me all of the documents again. Okay. Something else, just for your ease, up here, right? Does everybody see where I am up here? There is this little button right here where you can switch how you're viewing the documents. My preference, and what you guys are seeing now, is the grid view, right? So I can see each individual document as its own little box. It makes it easier for me. Some people prefer the list view. So if I click this little button right here, you would be seeing it looking like this. So I just want you guys to be aware, if you're logging in and this is what you're seeing, you're not going, that's not what Corey had. Like, where am I? What's going on? It's just the view is set up differently. You can still click on any of these documents to go in and look at the document, okay? So I'm just gonna go back to my grid view here. All right. So we've gone over the transaction cover sheet. That will fill in the information. So like if I click here, actually I filled in the buyer's information, so that's not going to be helpful. But you can see, because on the transaction cover sheet, I had the listing or the brokerage information in there. It's already here on this form for me. Okay. Just know that you should still double check all of these forms and make sure that you do fill them in completely, because not every single one will autofill. If it's a state form, chances are it will autofill. If it's something from our own company, it may not, if they haven't written the programming for it yet. So just make sure that you're opening the documents that you need and filling them in completely. Once you have done that, right? So for a new listing, you've got the listing agreement filled in, you've got the communication consent, you've got the CIS, right, or consumer information statement, seller's authorization, informed consent to dual agency. If you need the lead-based paint thing, that's in here for you already. You will need, here's the listing agreement itself, okay? The anti-fraud disclosure. The showing time form is on here if you want to send them that and go through it, but you don't need to. And then all of the home warranties that we offer are here too. So they have the 210 and they have the HSA, because we offer both. All right. So once you've got your initial listing paperwork filled out properly and you're ready to send it to your clients, same thing would apply for a new buyer, right? You've got your buyer agency, CIS, affiliated business, anti-fraud disclosure. Once you have all of your initial documents filled in and ready to go, from this page where I can see all my documents, I'm going to come back up to this gray menu here, right? And on the far left, there is a button right here that says e-sign. Okay, so that's what I'm going to click. So once, and a lot of people get held up here. Once you click e-sign, you're looking at this and it basically looks like nothing loaded. You're in a blank spot. What the heck happened, right? So the confusing thing is you now have to hit up here, new, to start a new email signature packet. Okay, so I'm going to click new packet, and it's going to pull up all of the documents in that transaction. And you just have to put a little check mark, next to the sheets that you want to send, right? So I'm going to be sending them the listing agreement. I'm going to be sending them the CIS, going to be sending them seller's authorization, informed consent, whatever it is, right? So you're just going to go through and select anti-fraud. You're going to select all the documents that you want to send them. Once you have those little check marks next to the documents, you can just come down here and close out this window. Don't need to save or do anything else. You just check off the ones you want, hit close. Okay, and now you can see I'm in this packet and there are all the documents that I chose to add. Okay, if you missed one, they have this option right here where you can add more documents. So you would just click this, that list will come up again, you find the one you want to add it, close it again, you're good to go, okay? So at this point now, I'm ready to name the packet. When you're doing these, it'll default to signature packet 1, signature packet 2, 3, however many you send. So it's a little bit easier to name them so that you can keep track of what packet has what documents in it. So in this case, if this is the very first step I'm doing for a listing, I would call it something like initial, listing paperwork or packet or whatever you want to call it. You want to make sure that for signing service, it does say DocuSign, okay? Zipforms has its own signing service that our company doesn't pay for because we have DocuSign. So sometimes your default will be set to something other than DocuSign. You just want to make sure you use that drop-down menu and switch it to DocuSign. If you get held up at that point, it just means for some reason that your Zipforms and DocuSign have not been linked, or you've changed the password for one or the other so the link got broken. So if you guys are trying to do this and for some reason DocuSign isn't an option or it's not working, you just let me know, all right? And I will talk you through relinking the two programs, but you should be set up good to go, all right? So once I've named it, it says DocuSign is how I'm gonna sign. Upper right, green next button. We click this, okay? Now it's asking me, who do you wanna send these to? If you had filled out that transaction cover sheet, all of the parties would already be here for you, and all you would have to do is put a check mark next to the ones that you want to send it to. If you're sending it to someone that you have not filled in their info yet, you just come over here to roll, find the right person that you want to send it to. So I'm going to be sending this to my seller, okay? So you just put to the left the little check mark, and then it gives you the boxes to fill in the missing information. So I put in their first name, I put in their last name. Make sure it's the correct names for signatures too, right? You're not using nicknames or anything else. You're using whatever their proper full name is, because this is what they're going to use to sign. And then I'm going to put their email. Perfect. Okay, so once that's done, there it is. Now it's showing, box is checked. And if you have seller 2, repeat the process. If you have to sign as well, which for listing agreements and those types of things, you do, right? So make sure you also add yourself on here, right? So I would go down and say, I'm the listing agent, right? And I would check this box off, make sure your own email's in there, etc. All right, so once you have all the parties detailed in here that will need to sign, same thing, you don't need to save, you just hit the close button at the bottom. Okay, now it's showing me everyone here that I'm gonna be sending this packet to. Once again, if you have forgotten someone, don't panic. Upper left-hand corner, there's an add signers button. You just click that and add in whoever you need to add in, okay? Other thing to look for right here is this little box that says signing order. If you leave it unchecked, then everyone on this list will get the document at the same time, and they can all sign in any order, and it will come back to you once everyone has signed. If you check that box, then it will go person by person in whichever order you set them to here. So you can drag them up and down and rearrange the order, but once you check that box, it's gonna go to, person number 1. They will have to sign before it goes to person number 2. So you just want to make sure if you're in a situation where you're dealing with 2 sellers or 2 buyers or whatever, you're letting them know, hey, one of you has to sign first before the other one will get them, if you're using that option, okay? Once you have this set the way you want, again, upper right-hand corner, we're going to hit the next button. And this may spin a bit. If you have a pop-up blocker, it's fine, just hit continue, like I did. And now what it's doing is actually putting you right into DocuSign itself. Okay, so now I'm actually in DocuSign, straight from Zipforms. So if you've used DocuSign at all, this will all look very familiar to you. Okay, it's the same program, same options, everything. At this point, you want to double check and make sure that everything is correct on all of the documents. Some of these will autofill where the signatures, here's a perfect example. It will autofill where the signatures or whatever need to go for you, but it's not always 100% correct. So you want to double check yourself. All right. So for instance, right here, the only person I said I was sending this to was my pretend seller. So that's why it's saying I need the signature right here of the seller, but the date signed is here, right? So I'm just going to drag it, move it over to the proper spot, and there you go. So you just want to go through, double check that everything's in the right spot, move it or add one if you need to. It won't always autofill, so you might need to come over here, grab a signature, grab an initial, grab a date signed, and move it over to where you need, okay? Now, if you're at this point and you go, uh-oh, I forgot to put someone on here that needs to sign, like I forgot to add myself, there's this awesome button up here at the very top in this purple bar that says Actions. Click that, and you can edit recipients. If you forgot to add a document, you can edit documents. So even if you've gotten this far and you realize you missed something, there's no need to freak out or go all the way back to the beginning. Use the Actions button, edit recipients. You can add someone. You can edit documents and add someone or take one out if you put one in by mistake, right? And you'll just do it all right from here and then go right back in, okay? So that'll make your lives much easier if you remember that little trick. All right, so once you have all of this and you've checked it and everything in here is in the proper spots and you make sure you have all the documents and all the people you need, upper right-hand corner of DocuSign is the yellow send button, right? Or lower right-hand side, both. They make it easy so you don't miss it. So you just click send and off it will go. Okay, so I'm going to do it just so you guys can see. It's just going to come to me anyway. So I'm going to click send. It says sending. It says thank you. That's it, you're done, right? So I can actually just close this window out because I'm all done. And now when you're back in your Zipforms, you'll see, oh, now I have an envelope that's sitting there waiting to go out, right? Okay. So hopefully this will come through quick because I do want to show you guys what it looks like in Zipforms once your clients have actually signed these documents. Here we go. So since I sent them to myself, I'm just going to sign them real quick so that you guys can then see what it looks like on the other side. And finish. Okay. So I'm refreshing my Zipforms and hopefully they came through rather quickly so I can show you. Let's see. Perfect. Okay. So back in my Zipforms transaction, back under the Documents tab, it's a day later or whatever, everybody is signed. You will get an email notification from both DocuSign and Zipforms once they're done, okay? So I'm gonna come back into Zipforms, back into 123 Main Street, click on my Documents tab, and you're gonna go scroll through and be like, where are these documents, okay? Anytime you send a signature packet from Zipforms, it creates a folder for those signed documents so that they're not just loose in the room, okay? So you will now see on the left-hand side under folders, I have one called the same thing that I call the signature packet, initial listing paperwork, okay? And if I scroll down on the documents page, I will see an icon of a folder right here, also called initial listing paperwork. So if I click it, there's all my signed documents, right? And they're all in PDF format now because they're complete. So at this point, if you realize one of those documents was incorrect, it's a PDF at this point. So you would have to then, load it. You don't have to redo the document from scratch, but you would now have to load this document into DocuSign again to add whatever spots you missed, okay? But once they're done, they're red PDFs, and this is gonna be important later on, so I'll come back to it. But that's how you find your signed documents. If you're in Zipforms, go, I don't know where they went, they're in a folder, okay? All right, so now, essentially, we're done with Zipforms. If it's later on, and now there's a buyer for this property, right? I would come back into Zipforms, back into this same transaction. You do not need to start a new one, okay? So I'm gonna back all the way out to my dashboard so you guys can see what you would see. So now you've received an offer, you've accepted, your clients, are good to go, and now you need to do contracts or send some other paperwork to the buyer side. You would come back into Zipforms, top menu, go back into your transactions, find the appropriate transaction, which in this case is 123 Main Street, open it up, right? Back to my Documents tab. And from here, you would now be able to find the contracts, fill them out right in the same room, and repeat that process where you can send them to your sellers via DocuSign to sign, okay? And if there's a document that you need that is not in this room from the beginning, which is possible, they put the basics in here, but they don't put everything in here you would need for every possible thing, right? So let's say this is going to now be an FHA sale, for instance, right? Or a short sale or some other form of circumstance. And you need to find the additional appropriate documents for that. They have a pool, they have solar, right? Those all need specific amendments or addendums, but they're not in here. Well, how do I get them? From your Documents tab, up here, does everybody see this blue All Forms thing? That's your document library in Zipforms. So I'm gonna click All Forms. This little box opens. This box right here tells me which library I'm in. So you can click this and you have the Bright Library, Gloucester-Salem Board. Nexus is, I think, the new Burlington County Board. I think that's what it's called now. You have the NJAR library. And then, because, I don't know, we can't get caught up, this still says PF for Prudential Fox and Roach, but it's ours, Prudential Fox and Roach and Trident library. So these are our office documents, etc. If you are not sure where in all of these libraries a form is, there is the All button at the top. So if you're not sure where it is, click the All button, then use this search box right here to search by name. So if I now know this is going to be an FHA buyer and I want to add the FHA amendment to the contracts before I send them, I'm just going to use search all libraries. I'm going to type FHA, and there it is, right? So once you find it, you just click the one that you want, click it. It's going to say this addenda has been added. So now I'm good. There's another one you need, repeat the process, use the search box, find what you need, add it in. Once you're done, little X right here, you can close this out. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, that's where they get added at the very end. They don't get added in alphabetical order or anything. So if you're adding new documents, they're just all going to be way down here at the end. So now I have the addenda, I can fill it out, and I can send it as part of the signature packet with the contracts. Okay? So you're going to use this same transaction in Zipforms throughout your entire transaction. You're not going to open up a new one for each stage, Okay, you're just gonna come back in here and do whatever you need to do. Once you've got signed documents in here, at whatever stage in the transaction you are, then that's the time you wanna make sure you open your DTR room. Okay, so now we're gonna go on to that. All right, so DTR or DocuSign transaction rooms, again, you can either get to it through ACE or through your Fox and Roach Gmail account by using the apps button, and you would select the one that says DTR. When you come in, you're on your dashboard. Okay, so this is what it looks like. And the first thing I want to do up at the very top here, I want to come over to the Rooms tab. Okay. So now I'm seeing the rooms that I have, okay, or the transactions, same thing. Right here, up in the upper left, you can see it's showing me active transactions. If you're looking for one and you can't find it here, you can check the review tab, which means the OAs are working on it to close it out, or you can even come back in it and look at all your closed transactions in here. So I can click closed if I need to go back in and add documents to one of my transactions that's already done, but I forgot to load something in before and I want to make sure it's in there for the record, for posterity. You would just look at your closed rooms and then you can find the right one and add whatever you want to add. Okay. So from my rooms tab, active, upper right here, there's a blue new button. This is how we're going to create a new room. So we're going to click this, and this is all going to look very familiar to Zipforms, okay? Same thing. They're asking you to name the room, okay? You can name it whatever you want. So again, if it's a listing, use the address. If it's a buyer, use the buyer's name, whatever you want to do. Okay? Template. Once again, very important, same as in Zipforms. Drop-down menu, it's gonna ask you, is this list and buy, meaning you already happen to know it's gonna be dual agency. Is it the list side? Is it the buy side? Is it a rental landlord or a rental tenant? Okay, so I'm gonna say this is a listing. It's going to auto-fill your role as real estate agent. You should leave that alone. And it's going to autofill and lock your side based on what you just told it, right? So since I said it's a listing, it's automatically putting me on the list side of the transaction. The next part is it wants a location and it will not let you go any further if you do not put a location in, right? That's why there's these little red asterisks here. So for a listing, this is easy. You just put in the listing address. If you are working with a buyer and you don't yet know what they're gonna buy, it's up to you. At this point, you don't really need to have a room yet, right? If they haven't bought anything and there's no contracts yet, you don't need to put in anything into DTR yet because the OAs aren't doing anything yet. You already have their initial paperwork signed. It's safe and hanging out in Zipforms. You can leave it at that until they hone in on a property. And at that point, if you know what they're buying, you're putting that address in, okay? If you are a crazy person like me who likes to have everything done and started up front, as soon as I have any paperwork signed, I choose to open a DTR room and I use a placeholder address, right? So I'll either use 123 Main Street, I will use the buyer's address, I'll use the office address. I'll just put something in here in the meantime so it will let me open the room, and then I'll go back and fix it once I know what they're buying. But you don't have to do that, okay? Keep your life simple. Just wait if you're doing a buyer until you know what they're buying. All right, so we're gonna put the address in here. Okay, you can choose to upload a photo. So if it's a listing and you already have, pictures on your computer from the listing, you can just click upload, select it from your computer and put it in. It visually will help you, if you've got a bunch of rooms open, know which one you're looking for without having to read all the names. Once you have that basic information in, upper right-hand corner again, Click Save. Okay, so just like with Zipforms, it's going to now put you in the transaction, which I know because here's the name and ID number and everything telling me it's created. And I am on the details page, right? So looks very similar to the summary page in Zipforms. Difference is in DTR, this details page is very important, okay? This is what the OAs work off of. This is what they used to submit your transaction to accounting for payment. This is what our company pulls from when they're running our numbers. How many listings do we have this month? You know, all of that, right? So filling out this details page is something I really want you guys to get used to doing. As of right now, we still have to use the actual transmittal sheets when we're done with the transaction, but they keep telling me moving forward, they're gonna get rid of us having to do that and just use this details page instead. So get used to filling this out. The OAs will love you. If you can do just this part, they will love you, all right? So right now, I can't click anywhere and add any information. All you have to do at the top is click this blue edit button, okay? That will instantly make all of these fields open so that you can fill in the information. At the beginning, you're just gonna have basic information, right? So you can come in here, you're gonna put the MLS ID number in, okay? Origin of lead, that's up to you. If you wanna keep a record so you remember where this lead came from, it has a drop-down list, you can pick it. Here's where my seller one information goes, over here on the right, okay? Location is mostly filled in for you from when you named it, right? All of this is correct. It has property type, you can put that in, right? Commercial, condo, residential attached, residential detached, whatever it is. So let's just say this is residential detached, okay? Year built, up to you. You don't have to put that in. Special circumstances. This is an important one. If the listing or what the buyers are buying have any special circumstances, please make sure to note that, okay? So if we click here, it tells you what I'm talking about, right? Is there some sort of major contingency? If so, it'll give you the option to write that in. Is it corporate owned? Is an estate sale, foreclosure, historical property, HUD property, investor owns, relo, or short sale, okay? The reason this is important, again, this is what the OAs look at. If they come in and you've marked it appropriately as a HUD home or an estate sale, they now know, okay, I better double check and make sure they have all of the extra appropriate documentation they will need. If you have no special circumstances checked off on here, but it is in fact, let's say, a short sale, they don't know to check to make sure that you have what you need for that particular type of sale. So make sure you're hitting that box if need be, okay? Back over to the right, here's my seller two information if there is one. Here's where my listing details go. So you'll know this from the beginning. When was it listed? When does it expire? What amount did I list it for? If I've changed it, what's the current amount, okay? Now, once you get down, and listing agent, that's you, right? You're gonna put yourself in. If you're on a team, maybe there's two of you. If you have a co-listing agent, put yours both in, okay? Offer details, you don't know that yet. It's still a brand new listing, we don't have an offer. That's okay. You can come back in at any time once you have that offer in place and fill this out, okay? So you're gonna put the contract amount, what is their escrow deposit, okay? Who's holding the earnest money? Is there a contingency? If so, what dates are they due by, right? When is the close date? Expected close date, I should say, is right here. And then once it actually closes, they'll fill that part in for you. Financing type. Additional information. This, again, important. So additional info, important part. There's a seller's concession. make sure you put it in here. You're going to put the list side commission, the buy side commission. If there's a referral, you're going to put it in here. And any notes you need to put in here so that the OAs understand, you know, why that is the way that it is. You can write in the notes section. You've got your buyer's info over here on the right, buyer 1, buyer 2, however many there are. Okay. And all the way down, you can add buyer agent. You can even add the mortgage provider, the title provider, insurance, you know, but make sure you get the basics covered in here as you go. Come back and fill this out so that it stays accurate. It will allow the OAs to process your file much quicker, much smoother. They won't have to bother you with questions. You won't get missed and not get paid for another week, you know? So just do yourself a favor and make sure that you're getting this done. Once you've made any changes, bottom right, save button. Okay? So we're gonna click save. Perfect. So now we've done our details page. Back up to the menu at the top. We're going to skip over tasks. Don't worry about that. We're going to come straight to documents, just like we did in Zipforms. Okay. What this is now showing me, and same thing, right? Upper right, grid view versus list view. So if yours looks different, don't freak out. It's just you've got a different view selected, right? Here's list view, here's grid view, right? This is now telling me the documents that I need for each part of my transaction, because as you can see, they broke it into steps. So step 1 is your new listing paperwork. What paperwork do I need for a brand new listing, right? Tells you need your anti-fraud disclosure, affiliated business, CIS, listing contract. Those are in red because those are the basic minimum required documents that you have to have before your transaction can move forward. That's it. Does not mean that these gray ones you don't need at all. It just means that you at least need those 4 to go to the next step, okay? But as you know, to CYA, you still do need most of these gray documents as well, right? You're gonna need the seller's disclosure, seller's authorization. E-consent is what it's called here. That's the communication consent, as it's called in Zipforms. The MLS sheet, right, which you can get from the MLS once you've entered it. And then if you need a social security authorization, whatever. But you just remember, red only means that you can't move on without it. Gray doesn't mean that you don't need it at all. You should still have most of these documents in here. Okay. If we go to step 2, it's telling me that's when the listing is executed, meaning you have an agreement of sale. For a listing, that's the second step. So now you need the actual contracts, right? You should fill out a seller transmittal. If there is a short sale, you're going to put it here, the addendum. Proof of funds, if it's a cash deal and they're sending you proof of funds. Disclosure, so if there's like a lead paint disclosure or any other kind of disclosure that's included with the contract, you would put it there. If you do an estimation of closing costs, you can load it in. They have a spot for the warranty to go, because whether or not your seller is opting to provide that warranty or the buyers are opting to purchase it for themselves, depending on what side you're on, you as the agent still need to be able to prove that you made your client aware that we offer this service. So even if they're not opting to take it, you're still supposed to have them sign one of those 2 home warranty packets that they're declining. So any which way, whether they're taking it or not taking it, you should have something in that spot, okay? So that's where that goes. Addenda, proof of escrow, which is just copy of the escrow check, right? And that's the kind of thing where you guys don't have to get too freaked out, because that is the kind of thing that Lisa or Patty or Kelly will put in for you, right? So if the escrow check gets dropped off straight at the office, goes straight to them, you never even see it, they will make sure that they add a copy of that check in here for you, okay? And then step 3 is getting ready to close. So anything that's happened in between contracts and closing that has changed this transaction is going to go in step 3. So has there been a price change, name change, settlement date change? So anytime you're doing an amendment to a contract that's going to affect the closing in some way, you want to make sure that you add it into here as well. Adding those documents to any of these spots right here lets the OAs know, oh, I got to check that, something is changing. I still suggest you shoot them an email and let them know what's going on, but having the document in here is just as important, okay? Then it just has blank additional docs, right? I think it has 5 total. So that's any other type of amendment or addendum or any other type of important paperwork you want to make sure is included in the transaction. If they don't have a specific spot named for it, you just use one of those 5 spots, okay? This other stuff that you'll see, conveyancing setup, settlement notice, title commitment, at this point, right, once you've done your first 2 steps, your transmittal is in there, and you're just waiting to go to closing, that's when your processors and title people will have access to this room, and they will be the ones adding that information, okay? So you really don't have to worry about anything past step 3. All right. Now that you know what you're looking at, the next thing you have to know is, well, how do I get these documents in here, right? That's the big question. So there's several different ways to do it. And the absolute easiest way is if you had, like I showed you today, started out in Zipforms, sent those documents from Zipforms to be DocuSigned, and now, as I showed you, they're back in Zipforms waiting there, right? That's the easiest way. So if that is the case, from our Documents tab here in DTR, upper right-hand corner says Add, right? I want to add a document. So I'm going to click Add. It's now going to give me a drop-down menu of where do you want to add these documents from. In this case, I know they're already done sitting in my Zipforms account waiting. Okay? So third option down, Zipforms. We're going to select that. Now it's giving me a list of all of the rooms that I have in Zipforms. So you just want to find the correct one, and I don't remember what the heck I called it. 123 Main Street, Mullica Hill. Okay. So I'm going to select 123 Main Street, Mullica Hill, since those are the 2 that match up. And then I'm going to hit the blue link button at the bottom of this window. It's going to tell me you have successfully linked your Zipforms transaction to your DocuSign transaction room. Perfect. So now I'm good to go. It's asking you one more thing. Now that you've linked Zipforms, where do you want those documents to come from, right? So it has this drop-down menu asking you what Zipforms location. So you click this and you have 2 options. It says Zipform Library. This is what you would use if you later in the transaction realize that you need an additional document, like an amendment or an addendum, and you want to add that blank document into DTR and just have it signed straight from here, okay? That's a little bit more advanced. I'm not going to get into that. So 99% of the time, you guys are going to be selecting the second option, which is I want to pull this document out of the linked transaction I just created, okay? Linked transaction. Once you select that, it's telling you, here's the room you're linked to. Here's all of the documents in the room. Now, if you remember back when we were still in Zipforms and I showed you that it creates that folder with the signed documents in it and they're now PDFs, that's important because now if I'm looking at this, there's all of these blue that say ZFX. I know it's really little, but they're blue and they say ZFX. Now here's a red one. So I'm seeing 2 things that say anti-fraud disclosure statement. The blue one is blank. B and B. Blue is blank. The red one says PDF. That is the signed version, which is what you want to load into this room. So blue is blank, red is ready. Got it? B and B, R and R. Right. So I'm going to go through this list and check off the red versions of the documents, the PDFs, because those are the signed ones I want to add to my room. And yes, I always put the summary in there too. Okay. So once you've checked off the ones you want, click the add button. And eventually, okay, here we go. Right. So it's telling me they've been successfully added to the room. Okay, well, where at? Right? So all you have to do is scroll down to the bottom. There they all are. Okay? So what this did was just put them in the room for you. Now you've got them all in here. Next step is to assign them to the appropriate spots in each one of these steps. Okay? So to do that, you just come back to the top and go one at a time. So this one says anti-fraud disclosure. Okay, I'm going to click the plus sign on it. It's going to bring up all of the documents I have in my room. I'm going to find the one that says anti-fraud disclosure, check it off, and assign it. Boom, there it is. Okay, you can go to the next one, affiliated business. I don't know if I sent that one. I don't think I did, so we'll just skip that one. Consumer notice, right? Consumer consent, same thing, CIS. Check that, assign, there it is, okay? So you're just gonna go one by one, click on them, select them from the list of documents in the room, click assign, now they're in their proper spots, all right? And let's see, I'm going to just do the rest of these. Just don't worry about what I'm doing. I'm just making the right ones go in. All right, listing contract. There we go. Okay, so once I have all of my documents in here and assigned for this step, right? We're just worrying about one step at a time. So ideally, I would also have my seller's disclosure, seller's authorization, e-consent, so on and so forth. I think I actually sent that one. Seller's authorization, I have that too. So let's just do that, right? So once I have all of these in here, you will notice the ones that were red, meaning they're required, have this little blue bar across them that say needs review. That's because we now have to tell the OAs that this part of the transaction is ready. They should come in here and review it and approve it so that you can move on to the next step, okay? The ones that are grayed out will automatically have a green bar that says complete, all right? Once I have all of my documents assigned in step one, I am now going back up here to the upper right, right here, and I'm clicking the blue Actions button. Okay. From this list, I'm coming down to the middle. This is the only part you need to know. It says Submit Task List. Okay. I'm going to click that. It lists all the steps of this transaction. We're doing step one because that's the one we have complete. So we're going to check off step one and you are going to click submit. That tells the OAs you've got your paperwork in there. You're ready to go. They should take a look. If everything is good, they'll approve it and you'll get a notification. If you're missing something, something's wrong, Hopefully they catch it and they shoot you an email and let you know. Okay? Not actually going to click submit because I don't want Patty and Lisa to have to wade through a bunch of random class stuff. So I'm just going to hit cancel. And really, that's it. Okay? What I'm going to do quickly, since we have a little bit more time, since we started late, is what are the other ways I can get documents in here, right? Because we're not always so lucky to have everything sent from Zipforms, DocuSigned, it's there and it's that easy. I mean, lots of times you're getting completed contracts sent to you via email. You have things like the seller's authorization and the seller's disclosure that need to be signed by hand, right? So you have hard copies. So like, how do I get stuff like that in here? Okay. So this add button for documents gives you other options. So first option is I want to pull it off my computer. So if a contract, let's say a fully signed contract was emailed to you by another agent, you can download that document to your computer, make sure you name it so you know what it is. Now it's saved on your computer. So you would use the add from computer feature. It brings up however yours looks, right? I'm on a Mac, so it might look a little bit different, but it will give you a list of all the downloads or documents that you have. Right now, I'm only looking at desktop, so I would switch this to say, no, I put it in my downloads. I want to pull it from there. You can use a search function to find, whatever the contract, whatever you called it, so that you can find it. You're going to select whatever, I don't know, whatever the right one is. Choose. It's going to tell you your documents have been added, and same thing, they've been added at the very bottom. So it's down here. I just have to come back up, find whatever the right section is, right? So right here, check it off, assign. Okay, so if you get anything emailed to you, probably the easiest thing for you guys, because you're used to downloading and saving documents from your email to your computer, is you can do it that way. So once you've downloaded and saved it to your computer, you come back into DTR, back to your documents tab, click add from computer. Okay. If there is something in your Google Drive, because that's where you put it, you can actually connect straight to your Google Drive and pull it out of there. So there's lots of options. I'm not going to get into all of them because those are pretty much the two most common. And even if you yourself have picked up a hard copy from the client, what you're doing is scanning it to your own email anyway, right? So you can just scan it to your own email, download it to your computer, and then upload it into here. There is one option I guess I'll show you because it's quick. If you're in DTR like I am right now, right now we're at the top on our Rooms tab, but right next to that, there's this Inbox tab. If you click Inbox, part of DTR for all of you is that you have an email inbox and a fax, an e-fax number for DTR, okay? So once I'm in my inbox, I can see this is my direct email for DocuSign transaction rooms, and this is my e-fax number. If you're in yours and you don't see a number, you will see a button that says get fax number, and all you have to do is click get fax number, refresh your screen, and your number will be there. So let's say, you're at home and you have to get these wet signed documents into here, and you can scan them, but you have a fax machine. I don't know, maybe you do. My dad still does. So you can actually just dial this number and fax those documents straight into DTR, right? Or you can forward that email that you received to this email address here, and the documents will show up in DTR. So you can see I have some in here. These were faxed to me from someone who couldn't figure out how to, scan an email, but they, went to Staples or their office or whatever and were able to fax them to me. So they're in here, right? So the only thing with that is that they're in your inbox. They're not in the room you need them to be in, right? So once they're in your inbox, like they are here, you hover over any of these, and what you will see is a little checkbox, or circle, I should say, right? So I'm going to check it, the document that I want to move. I'm going to get this little menu right here, and the first thing says move. So I'm going to click it. I'm going to select a destination. In this case, guys, I'm going to use closed rooms because this one already closed, but generally you're going to say, I want to put it into one of my active rooms, right? This. And then you're going to pick which room do I want to send it to, and click move. Boop, there it goes. Okay. So that's just a little extra tip. I don't want you guys to get too hung up on that, but just know if your only option is fax, you can have it fax straight to your DTR inbox and then move it to the appropriate room. All right. So at this point, I'm going to try to figure out how to make this big again. I'm going to stop share. Find all you lovely people and unmute you. Unmute. Okay, and let's see. So looks like the only question I have in the chat box from Nance is, can you switch from zip to DTR again? Nance, are you still here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, so what do you mean? Just you want to know how to log in?
At the very end of the zip forms, I was good right to that point.
Okay.
And then next thing you know, I think I blinked and you were in the DTR and I was like, wait a second, I don't know how she got there.
Well, because I was teaching, I already had both windows already open. So I just switched from one window to the other. So if you need to know how to log into your DTR, is that what you're asking?
Yeah. From the zip forms.
It's not from the zip forms. It has nothing to do with going there from the zip forms. I just had two windows open right next to each other. So to get to your DTR account.
That would be an ACE, right?
It's, through ACE or also through your Fox and Roach Gmail.
Okay.
Okay.
I thought I missed something, honestly.
No, you didn't. I just had two windows next to each other to save us some time.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Sure. Does anybody else have any questions or anything they want me to go back and show again?
I have a question.
Shoot.
In our office forms, is the COVID form in there?
I don't honestly know if they've loaded it into Zipforms yet. Generally, that kind of thing takes a while. I do know that it's in an email that was sent out several times, and
I had the form. I was just wondering if it was in the forms for a prospective buyer.
I don't think it's in the templates yet in Zipforms. Okay. However, you can add it into your Zipforms transaction if you want to send it along with like a signature packet.
Right.
So do you want me to show you that real quick?
Might as well. I think I know how to do it, but if you do it,
sure. Right. It's a good question because we're getting new forms all the time that aren't necessarily in Zipforms yet, right? Okay. So rather than having to send it separately, turn my screen sharing back on, and I will go back over to my Zipforms account, right? So right here, right? So I'm in my Zipforms correct transaction here. Okay. I'm in this gray menu here under Documents tab. There's an Add Doc button right here, okay? So you would click Add Doc, and then it's gonna ask you from where, and you're gonna click, if it's on your computer, right? Because you've saved it from your email, you're gonna hit Browse Document, Browse for a file. It's gonna pull up all the files on your computer, which again might look different depending on what type of computer you're using. But you can just search by name COVID-19 or, you know, whatever that is.
Right.
Here they are right here, right? Because I had saved them to my computer. Right? So you would just click 1, click 2, click however many versions you need, choose, it will add them into the room, and then it will function pretty much like any other document. The only thing I'll say with that, let me just do it so you can see, is that it's not going to be an editable document because it's not a Zipforms doc.
Right, but
Right.
when I send it over to DocuSign, if I pull it right in the DocuSign, I can make it signable, right?
You can make it signable. It's not like editable, right? So you
Oh,
can like,
okay.
write a bunch of stuff on it or fill in the different names. You can 100% drag signatures, initials, dates all over it.
Right,
That's
right,
not
right.
a problem. So let me just click OK. All right, so now they're down here at the bottom. Actually, all right. So this is what it looks like.
Right.
So see all this stuff now, you can't
Yeah, how am
just,
I getting that in there?
you can't just click it, right? So what you can do is actually, I think the versions that they sent out are Word documents, pretty sure,
I don't remember.
so
I
that
don't
you can
remember.
fill them in. So you would just fill it in ahead of time.
Right. Save
Save
that
it under a
and
new
then pull
name
it
so
into
that
the
you,
file.
right, so you still have the blank one. Save it under a new name for that buyer or whatever.
Right,
Then put
right.
it in here. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And there is a way in DocuSign, I think, where you can basically, one of the options, instead of dragging signature or initial or whatever, there's actually, I think there's something that says text.
Yes.
Yeah, there is.
So you just drop a text box into every one of those spots.
Yeah, but it would be, if it's a Word doc, it would be
It's
easier
way
just
easier,
to do it.
right?
Yeah,
100%. So that's what I'm saying. I'm pretty sure they send out them as Word documents for that reason, so that you
Right,
guys, and
right.
I know they're working on getting them into Zipforms. I just
Mhm.
don't think that they're in there yet, because that does take some time. We have to actually go through Zipforms and get approval before we can put them in there.
Right, okay.
Okay.
And I got one other question, Corey.
Sure.
You had at one time mentioned that there's a way to email documents right into a transaction room.
Yes,
But
there is. Kudos to you.
I forget how to do it. I
That's
remember
right.
it had something to do with that little number at the
It
top.
does. Yeah, I didn't go through that in this class only because that's like the most advanced way to do it, and I didn't want to freak anybody out, right? But absolutely, let me show you how to do that. For some people, it's just easier to download the document and then upload it because that's what they're used to doing. But if you're a crazy person like me and you want to be able to just send it straight in there, I'll show you how to do that.
Okay.
Okay. So I would be in my email account, right? I would find whatever the email is,
Right.
let's say this one, that has the documents attached to it.
Right.
Okay. I would come up here to the three little dot menu and hit forward. Right? Because I'm going to forward this email from my Fox and Roach to my DTR.
Right.
Okay. You have to know what your DTR email is, which is why I showed you guys, if you go to your inbox in DTR, it shows you, right? I actually saved that as a contact in my Fox and Roach email, so I can just start typing.
And it pops it in.
And it pops up, right? So in the to section, you're going to put your DTR email. You could do just this step, and it would show up in your DTR inbox, and then you can just move it to the appropriate room. Or you can take it a step further and send it straight into the room itself. So to do that,
that's what I forget.
Yep. To do that, like you said, you need to know, I'm going to go back out and I'm going to go back into that room we created, right? You need this ID number, like you said.
Right.
Okay? So if you're in the appropriate room that you know you want to send it to, if you hover over that ID number, it literally tells you copy and paste this room ID number into your email subject in order to send documents into this room.
Okay.
And you
so
need
just from the number sign on.
Correct.
I don't need any other subject or anything like that. Just use my
you need the number
DocuSign.
sign, though, is important to know, or pound sign, whatever you want to call it. You need from there over.
Right. Okay. And I just send it to my DocuSign email address, and it'll pop it right into the room.
Let me show you, because Gmail makes it a little complicated to do this, because you have to put this in the subject line of the email, right? So I'm going to copy this number. I'm going to come back over here to my email that I'm forwarding, right? Because I'm forwarding it, Gmail assumes you want to keep the same subject line.
The same subject
nowhere
line.
here can I change the subject line, right? So people get hung up here. If you look directly to the left of where you typed the email address, so this little arrow right here, and you click it, it gives you the edit subject option. Okay, so it's an extra little step that you have to take.
Right.
So you click edit subject. Now it looks like a regular old email.
Right.
And you can, but do not have to delete the original subject.
Oh, okay. So the original subject's okay to be in, as long as that number is there.
Doesn't matter as long as the pound sign and the number are there. So I can just click here at the end, add it, or I can delete the old one and add it. Doesn't matter. All you need is that pound.
That pound and the number. Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Then
cool.
I'm going to click send. And it does generally take some time. So don't freak out if like 5 minutes later it's still not there. It can take some time. It just depends. And all that it will send are the documents that are attached.
Oh,
so
it doesn't send the email, just the docs.
Just the documents.
Cool. Okay.
If you want to send the body of the email as well, these are some advanced tips for you guys. So let's say you have a whole email chain back and forth with an agent where you're negotiating the sale, purchase price, all that stuff, right? And you want to be able to save all of that back and forth in your file.
Right.
You would do the same exact steps I just showed you. In addition to adding the number sign and the number of the room in the subject line, you would also type pound or number sign PDF. Anywhere
changes the email into a PDF.
Yep. Changes the subject, however many emails you got in there. It takes all the content in that email itself, converts it to a PDF so that you can save it in the room.
Okay, cool.
All right.
Thank you very much.
That
was those were my questions.
Awesome. Anybody else have questions?
Where will this recording be?
I will send it to Lisa, and then she will send it out to all of you guys.
Oh, okay, thanks.
Okay.
I don't have Marilyn's email address.
What? I think she means Lisa Payne.
The what? Oh, that Lisa. Okay, cool.
Yeah, Lisa. Yeah, no, I'm sorry.
Oh,
not you. Like, I'm not making you responsible.
Oh I like it.
Yeah, no, I'm not gonna ask you to do that.
Thanks, Nan.
Got it.
So real quick before you guys go, I end every class by showing you where you could right now access this same information, okay, to review.
Okay.
So I did record this and I will make sure it gets sent out to you guys, but even without that video, I'll turn my screen sharing back on. I'm going to go to my ACE dashboard here. Okay, so I'm just in my ACE account. Very first tab is the education tab here. I'm gonna click that. And there's two ones in here I want you to be aware of. There's this first one, which is the Fox and Roach education website, which is a whole website you guys have access to, dedicated to all the different trainings. It's where you can find out about what live classes are happening, where all the Zooms are, you can register. They have videos and everything in here. So all the new stuff that's for like virtual, so like virtual tours, virtual open houses, all this new stuff that's coming at us is on that education website under its own heading. All right. For anything like what we're talking about right now, right? So programs we've had like Zipforms or DTR or Active Pipe or any of those, you come over to this folder that says Training Library. Right? Click it. Here I am down here in the training library. I want to look at the help documents and videos. So I'm going to click that. it now has listed by subject in alphabetical order all the different tools and the training materials for those tools. So if you want to be able to review the DTR, let's say, part of what I just taught you, you come down alphabetically, you find DTR right here. Then you decide, okay, how do I learn better? Do I prefer watching videos, or do I prefer looking at the PDF of a handout that I can read through page by page? Up to you. They have both options, okay? And within both of these options, I'll just start out with the documents. They have broken this subject down into mini subjects, because DTR is a huge program. There's so much to learn about it. You don't want to have to read through a 60-page document to find the one thing you need to remember how to do, right? So it's broken it down so that you can remember, okay, if I need to remember how to start from scratch, it's this first one right here, right? It says number 1. That will teach me how to create a room, everything on my dashboard, how to operate my account, etc. If I want to learn about task lists, which you guys don't anymore, so don't worry about that one. We used to have to assign our own. Now you just pick from a list, so don't worry about that. They do, however, have a reminder task list, which is an extra one you can add if you want to get reminders about certain things. So that would be good. That one's right here. Documents would cover the part where I showed you how to add documents, how to assign them to a task list, what are the different ways to load documents into the room, right? So that's what number 3 is going to cover. And then that's pretty much as far as we got in today's class. But if you want to kind of skip ahead and become more of an expert, once you've got this part down pat, number 4 teaches you about how to add people to your room and give them access to certain documents. So you can add your clients into that room and give them access to all of the documents appropriate for them to have.
Oh, yeah.
Number 5 shows you how to actually send documents for signature straight from DTR. So you can actually skip completely past the zip forms part, right? Load the blank forms into DTR, send them all from there so that once they're signed, they come back to DTR. So again, a little bit more advanced, not something you need to get hung up on, but the option is there if you want to learn it. This one teaches you about the room activity tab, which again, I wouldn't get too stressed with this. And the last one shows you how to use the messaging system within DTR itself, which you really only need if you're adding your clients or, you know, other people in there and you want to be able to communicate with them within DTR itself. There is a messaging option. So you can see they break it down by subject. So you can say, all right, I'm just going to start out with number 1 so I can, you know, solidify my knowledge on how to create a room. There you go. And if we go back, and again, DTR, I'll show you the videos version. Same thing, right? They've broken it down into a bunch of shorter, smaller videos. So you don't have to re-watch this hour-long webinar if there's only one piece that you need a reminder of, okay? So it'll tell you what it's about, how long it is, 4 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes, 11 minutes, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, right? You get the idea. You can very easily just come in here and watch a little snippet video and whatever you need a reminder for. They're there for zip forms as well. They're there for everything. Okay.
Corey, what would be the advantage of doing the zip form first instead of just putting everything into DTR right from the start?
So it helps you stay more organized, I feel like, right?
Okay.
And zip forms is the only place where the template actually loads all the documents in for you, right?
Oh, okay.
So even if you want to put the blank forms in DTR and have them sign from there, I would still start out, you still have to start out with a zip forms transaction so you know what documents you need because of that zip forms template.
Gotcha.
You still need to be able to link DTR back to that zip forms to then pull in the documents. So any which way, you're still starting in zip forms. to me, the one kind of time that I will use that from DTR itself is if I'm most of the way through the transaction and suddenly I need to add a single document, right? Like an amendment or something like that. Rather than going back into Zipforms, filling it out there, sending it, waiting for it to come back, then loading it into DTR. If it's just a single document that I need after the fact, I'll actually start right in DTR itself. I'll add document from the linked Zipforms, but I'll choose the from Zipforms library option, pull in the blank document, fill it out right in DTR, send it via e-sign right from DTR, and once they've signed it, it comes right back into DTR.
Gotcha.
So that's pretty much the only time. I don't do like the whole packet from scratch in DTR.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. Any other questions?
Uploading the seller disclosure directly into DTR and then sending it to the bot, sending it out that way allows the buyer to sign it too.
Yeah, if you send it via e-sign, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, any other questions?
Yeah, very interesting. Thank you.
Oh my gosh, you're
Thank
so
you, Corey.
welcome. You guys are so welcome. I'm going to stop.
Thanks,
screen
Corey.
share. I'm going to
Have a good one.